And with that, we are here for another edition of Sunday Night AstroLive. I really don't need these because unless I play some audio, I'm going to have to put up my shitty speakers. But I'll leave them here just in case I do. But for now, I don't. Okay, what is happening, everyone? It is me, Robert Phoenix, and it is Sunday Night AstroLive. And I don't know how long we're going to be here tonight. What do you think, Peach? 90 minutes or so? What do you think? 2 hours? Jasper says, I'm done already. Are you coming over here? You're going to be in the executive producer chair tonight. Over there. You can be over there. That's all right. Right now, she's examining her shadow. She's not quite sure what it is, but it's something worth staring at. If only we could be as amused as cats are by the most inane things. Anyway, how was everybody? Kind of a low energy day for me today, man. I woke up this morning and my body was just beat to shit this morning. And the old Dr. Joan there tried to, I almost call her the old doctor. Never want to say that. No, not at all. Dr. Joan tried to rearrange a few things and it helped quite a bit. But man, I woke up today with the most intense pain in my neck and my back. But we're here. I'm here, and I'm in pretty good shape tonight. Oh, look who's here now. She decided that she wanted to join the broadcast. There she is, the magnificent Peachy. The magnificent Peachy. Then Jasper's right over here. He was getting the Mac treatment earlier. She was over there licking him up. He was definitely the Mac. Jasper's got the Mac thing down. Okay, well, let's see. Let's start at the top of the order. Batting leadoff tonight, hitting a crisp 333, DJ MC Michael Sistradino. There she is, the lovely and talented one, saving Austin one tooth at a time. Joan W. right on the heels. And she's on time for a change. Looking forward to this. All right. We shall see where we will go. How about the lovely parade in Paris? Well, we'll talk a little bit about that. I have the chart for the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. What do I have to say about it? How about not surprised? Is anybody really surprised that we saw? I mean, I didn't see it. I have taken my energy away from most of these public things. Every now and then, I will watch a sporting event live when it happens, but not many. I'm just not that invested. I don't really watch a lot of political stuff live. I usually wait until after the fact. And I knew that the opening ceremonies were, or the opening ceremony was on. And I just said, well, you know what? I'm really not into these Olympics. And as a result, I'm probably not going to be into the opening ceremony. They always set a tone. They always set a tone. I remember the opening ceremony in the Olympics in Barcelona. And it was quite something. So people have broken that opening ceremony down and basically said that that was the tip off for COVID in 2020. I don't have time to go through it all, but I'm sure some of you who are industrious and hungry like the wolf for the truth, you will go back and you will find it. The way that the Olympic torch was lit, I thought was incredible. But there's even esoteric and occult references to that. They had an archer who had a flaming arrow. So we were looking at um, Sagittarian energy. I think it was like headed towards, I think it was in the direction of the galactic center. I mean, it was really like all lined up, right? And this guy he has one shot to fire the flaming arrow over the torch, which is at this point what propane or butane or whatever they're using. And he only has one shot, and that flaming arrow crosses the path and lights the flame. Now, they probably could have lit the flame as a backup. Like, is he going to do it? Is he going to make it? I think they had a backup. But I thought that is pretty fucking cool and dramatic. It was very Spanish in a lot of ways. I think they had a kind of moving portrait of Guernica with people inside the portrait representing the different like symbols of Guernica. I was like really fucked up, but really amazing. I'm like, what am I watching here? I thought it was cool. But all these Olympics have occult significance and esoteric significance. If you go back, of course, the mother of all opening ceremonies is the 2012 Olympics in London. I mean, they're just flat out telling you. They're flat out telling you where they're going. They've got nurses and syringes and beds, and then you have creepy Russell Brand, who is uh, kind of playing the role of this character. I mean, he's like the Mad Hatter. He's also like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. And there's a character in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang who has the equivalent of like a truck like for the dog pound, except instead of dogs and cats, he picks up children. So you have Russell Brand, playing this role. I mean, it was just so fucking creepy. And there almost always seems to be, and I looked into this by the way, there almost always seems to be a death at the Olympics. We've already had one. This was, I think, a strength or assistant coach from Samoa. Let's see. Yep. Samoan boxing coach dies. This was one day ago. And I'll bring this up for you. If you're not familiar with this, I will share it with you. Lionel Fatu Elika, the national boxing coach of Samoa, died at the 2024 Paris Olympics on Friday after reportedly suffering a cardiac arrest while at the Olympic Village. He was 60 years old. So it's interesting. He has the name Lionel, and there is the word lion, which is in Lionel, and the lion has often been associated with France. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, that's where Richard the Lion-Hearted died. He died in France. And L, right? L is associated with Saturn and the elite. Very, very interesting name, Lionel. And there's a lot of parallels here with other events and other myths. So most recently, we had the shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania, and we had the death of the firefighter, right, first responder, and the first responder is a hero, a warrior, right? Firefighters are warriors. They warriors fight things. They fight fires. And he was Lionel Fatu Alika was also a warrior. He's a boxing coach. So we have the death of a warrior. It's a ritual death of a warrior at the beginning of the Olympics. So wrap your head around that, just for starters. Died after suffering cardiac arrest. So if you were going to have a sacrifice, I'm not saying that they said, hey, let's knock off Samoa's boxing coach. His name is Lionel. And he's got Lion and Leo, and we're in the month of Leo. And when you look at the French Revolution, it is about the decapitation of the elites. That's what it's about, the decapitation of the elites. And look, he's even on the Seine, right? This is their ceremony. It's almost like he's taking a journey down the river Styx. And he doesn't even know it yet. I believe you can see him right back here. Right there. But these things are strange. There are very unusual forces at work at Olympics. And I can't tell you what the mechanics are. Like, are the archons taking them out? Is it a fake? Is it a psyop? Do we have to do this? Can we act it out? Again, I'm just telling you that you had a boxing coach here die right before the opening ceremony. And in many a decoder's world, that would say that is a sacrifice. And I will lean into that. Because I've seen too many of these Olympics, summer, winter, including Paralympics, where people die. Of course, the mother of all Olympics in that regard is 1972 in Munich. And some people are believing that this is going to be another version of the 1972 Olympics in Munich. I'll say this. There is enough pressure in Paris and in France with the Muslim Fujis and the Paris Nationals or the French Nationals, and also interested parties who would like nothing more than to kickstart a major conflagration in the Middle East if, let's say, a supposed terror group like, I don't know, Hamas or Hezbollah, or maybe they'll resurrect one of the old ones from the past. Maybe the PLO will show up, or maybe it will be the same group that was purported to do the 1972 Olympics in Munich. Wouldn't that be something? Oh, here they are again. But what if that did occur? What if something happened during these Olympics that was so over the top and so heinous that and either one group was taking credit for it, or they did it, or they attributed to that group? It doesn't really matter in some ways. Like, reality doesn't always have to fit certain models. You know, I've talked about this with the Kennedy assassination. It's like, well, Kennedy didn't die. It was all faked. And he's been living as Jimmy Carter ever since. Or he's been living in an deep underground bunker with Marilyn Monroe, where they have found the elixir of life and shall live for eternity together. It doesn't matter. He's dead. Right? The psychic reality of Kennedy dying is the psychic reality of it. He's dead. In the minds of millions of Americans and people all over the world, on the 22nd of November, 1963, 23rd of November, 1963, he was dead. Mostly by the 23rd. And that's all that really matters. That's all that matters. So we can say, well, this happened and this happened and this didn't happen, but it's the way it happened, right? He's gone. Um, there's interesting parallels to Trump, which I've talked about, and how Trump survives the assassination attempt. And again, whatever you think of Trump, whatever you think of the whole thing that happened, right? He survived. And Kimberly Cheadle lost her job as a result of this thing. She had to fucking resign, right? So a lot of times these events that happen codify something in reality or so-called reality, and they also uh, shift the timeline. And I've been having some really interesting conversations about people and this timeline shift. And it's like, yeah, this happened to me, and then this happened to me. I think Emily brought it up, and it was with Rafael Nadal, and she follows tennis very closely, and it had to do with the marital status of Rafael Nadal's parents, and it was always considered to be like a very specific ratification of their status. I forget which one it is, whether they were together or not together. Anyway, so now that's all changed, and his parents' status is completely different than what it was before. So, there's that, right? And I've heard other people tell me that whatever happened after that day in Butler, Pennsylvania, things change. You can even include Kamala Harris in the discussion because prior to that event with Trump, it was Trump, Biden, right? And then not long after that, now bye Biden, and now it's Trump Harris. So even that changed. Even Trump's supposed opponent changed for the election in November. So we can talk about some of that tonight. And some of it has to do with the colors of Venus and Mercury, which I'm going to talk about because they play a very important role in Kamala Harris's chart. And they also play, and you will see them more frequently in the days and weeks to come as we literally sprint into this election cycle, which I will also talk about in terms of what I think could happen if it goes down with Kamala and Trump being funneled into the election on November 5th. If you did not catch the two shows that I did on Kamala Harris, they're available over on Rumble. And I'm going to put the links for those shows in the text here because I think that they're really worthwhile in terms of trying to understand who she is. And this is just at a kind of an esoteric and occult level, especially part two. So let me drop these in here. So this is part one. So that's part one. That's Who is Harris, part one. And then part two is right here. And I would say if you have time, watch them both. All right. So this is Who is Kamal, because they fit together kind of hand in glove. And here's part 2. So I talk a lot about Kamala Harris and her symbol, the symbol of Kamala Harris, and who she is. I also, on Friday, if you didn't see Friday's show, I talk about the movie Children of Men. And one of the themes of Children of Men is the Black Madonna. And this is represented by the main character, Ki, Kii, which also means like ki or chi or spirit or life. And Ki has the first child in over 18 years. And she is the personification of the Black Madonna. There's all kinds of other symbolism going on there. But that is what they're trying to craft Kamala Harris as. They're trying to craft her as the Black Madonna. And tonight, we're going to take a look at her chart, and in conjunction with some of those other pieces that are in those 2 Rumble videos, I will tell you who Kamala Harris is. She's not the Black Madonna. All right, who else do we have? 5DRG, working but listening. Cool. Peter Bione, he's jumping in the shower. He'll be back in a bit. Hopes everyone is doing all right. All right. We're getting a clean and refreshed version of Peter Bione. Healing Heart Rosie, you're right on time. Predictive programming, it's predictable programming. That's what I think. Kabuki Theater, what's up? Bo, Rosie, yes. Claire's here. Hi, Claire. Glemma Spank. Hi, Glemma. Jeff Rosan. There's my man, the shadow. Benito Diaz. Jolie Evans in the house. Congratulations on your new gig. Aaron L is here. Deanna, I love when the show, or Dina rather, coincides with making dinner here on the West Coast. You can put me on the background and work on that salad. Kelly B. What's happening, Kelly B? Sharon Lewis. Down the wombat hole. I'm going to, DWH, I got to go back to your calculation on those squares that you dropped on Twitter. I was going to answer that tonight, but I'm going to save it. So down the wombat hole throughout a series of transits coming up, and he wanted to know my thoughts on them. So I want to return to that, and I'm going to bring it up. I'm not sure if we'll do it tonight, though. Let me feel it out. But it's not gone unnoticed. And in fact, I did want to bring it onto the show to talk about it. Athena's here. Hi, Athena. Mary Lee. Leanne Ott. Guess what? We got a birthday. Uh-oh. We got to find the right birthday song for Leanne, not though. Let's see. Hold on. We got to find the right one. Leanne, I got a feeling. I got a flavor. I got a feeling and I got a flavor. Oh, if I play that, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm looking, I'm searching. Okay, I'm gonna take a look here. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this one. Let's see if I can make this one cooking free. I'm gonna take a risk. Just maybe. You know what I'm gonna do? Hold on. I'm gonna do something here. Can I record this thing? Hold on. I don't know if I can record it now. All right. Oh, Leanne, this is for you. This is for you. Happy birthday. Another trip around the sun. We got a little Grand Ole Opry.
And went all the way from Kentucky to Washington State.
This is what I'm feeling for Leanne right here. A little Loretta Lynn. Now remember, happy birthday. There's no copyright on that song. So as long as she stays true to form, right? Here we go. This is for Leanne.
Back to take her place on the Opry. And we're mighty glad she's one of us. Loretta Lynn.
I know where you're going. Who's gonna meet you there? I know how late you'll be coming home. But guess who doesn't care? Tonight I'll step out too, since I won't be here. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. My best wishes may be early, but I'm not sticking around to bake a cake for your birthday while you're out running around. She can help you celebrate. May she bring you lots of cheer. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. I've made my mind up, like seconds long enough. You think I don't mean it, so you're gonna call my bluff. Well, I'll be busy packing while you're holding her near. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. My best wishes may be early, but I'm not sticking around to bake a cake for your birthday while you're out running around. She can help you celebrate. May she bring you lots of cheer. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
You know, that's a nice breakup song. That really is. You know, I'm going to make you a cake. Happy birthday. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I hope you enjoy it because I'm out of here. See, that's how they used to break up back in the good old days. Now there's songs about cutting your balls off. It's quite a different universe we live in now. Leanne, it wasn't quite a happy birthday song, but I think you can find the humor in that. And so we wish you a very happy another turn around the sun. The Muse Memorandum. JJ, there he is. Tom the Man Jordan. Brandy Herrera. Son's driving up from LA. Hooray. Hip hip hooray. Olympic contained the words I comply. Olivia Provorce. Hello, Olivia. There he is. Zaralive. The immortal, mortal. We're on a new timeline because I didn't recognize my next door neighbor this morning at breakfast. That's kind of odd. Don't you think? And I'll tell you why. He had his hair in braids and some little cowrie shells. I didn't recognize him. I did not recognize him. So I didn't say hi to him. I hope you didn't think I was rude. I really did not recognize the guy. I think that's some new timeline shit because he wasn't the same guy that he was when I saw him before. And then the last time I went to see him, I knocked on his door to see if he wanted to come over and join us for our barbecue. And he didn't open the door. He just had the ring on. He had the ring on. So I didn't see him then. I hadn't seen him. Shows up. I don't know. Like, the thought crossed my mind. Is that my neighbor? Does that guy lives next door to me? So next time I see him, I'm gonna have to tell him, hey man, you're just a new guy on my new timeline. I'm sorry about that. I'm sure he'll understand. Let's see. Who else do we have? W.C. Ray. Oh my, it's soup. Yes. Another chaotic weekend to cover, almost like supper together. There's never a week or a day in which there's nothing to talk about. And it's a blessing and a curse. The blessing is there's always something to talk about. The curse is there's always something to talk about. Wouldn't it be great if we just strung a bunch of fucking boring days together? What happened today? Nothing. Really? Nope, nothing happened today. Whether this going to happen tomorrow, I don't know. Maybe more nothing. Well, maybe. You remember those days? There were days when nothing happened. Oh, there might be the occasional plane crash. Maybe the occasional political scandal. What else could there be? There might be a natural disaster somewhere. But these were the things that grabbed our attention. Usually, nothing fucking happened. And now it's all happening 24/7, 365. Cato, yes. Darling, having a beautiful, relaxed, rainy Sunday. Just another rainy Sunday. Oh, it's a different song. What's happening, Steve? Yo, yo, yo. Meow, meow. Meow, meow. Love a Scorpio. Doing some fighting in the astral, Robert. Apparently so. Ooh, it was rough. It was rough. Gloves off. Barbara Booth's been watching the Olympics. Love the gymnastics. Simone Biles is just amazing. Really nice to see some positive things. Emily Moyer shares the same sentiments that you do about Simone Biles. She says that she's one of the most amazing athletes of all time. There you go. Cato's neck is messed up too. Pin Greedy, what's happening, Pin Greedy? My angel girl Kitty Angela says, hey, did you hear that? He's got an angel kitty girl too. Let's see, Gojira, that's all I need to know. There you go. Candace Owens, I said this on Friday. Candace Owens should have been Trump's vice presidential nomination. Can't have her, though, because unfortunately, the Ben Shapiro's of the world would not have approved Candace Owens. But they needed some Candace Owens energy to combat that Kamala energy. Let's see. Sweet Woodruff checking in from Dallas. Guy Dance, it's lunchtime in New Zealand. Here's to lunchtime in New Zealand. SJS, not tuned into any of the political infused Olympic Games. We were at the restaurant this morning. I was watching the Equestrian on the channel, on the TV behind me. It was actually pretty cool, I have to say. They were running across bridges and running along the river, and it was pretty cool. I like horses. Susie G, what's going on, Susie G? You didn't know the G's are Gemini, and it's Susie with the angel's wings, the Queen of Hearts. Gucci to Goats, what's up, Jake? Good to see you. Neo the Wise is here. Did I say hello, Bo? If not, Bo, you get another one. The pictures I've seen were disgraceful. Yes, they were. Oh, what you saw the opening ceremony was pretty. What'd you do? Like the first 20 seconds? Sorry. Loved Duran. I saw Duran. I saw Duran at their height. I saw them at their peak, and that was, of course, the Rio album with hits like Rio and Hungry Like the Wolf. They were amazing. Duran were a great fucking band. Whatever you think of the posh boy status, they were good. They were really good. And there was a band that opened for Duran. They were excellent. And the name of the band is Chrome Dinette. And they had Mingo Lewis from the Santana and the Tubes in that band. It was kind of one of these kind of proto electric. They were awesome. I mean, you could find some Chrome Dinette stuff on YouTube, but it's not that good. Live, they were the shit. Missed the opening ceremony, but kindergarten Jill loved it, so it had to be special. Yeah, right. Jack, what's up? It's Jack Attack. Strom 3 in the house. Melissa Stanton. Look at CZG. So satanic. Is there any surprise? Like, is there any fucking surprise? If you had told me, hey, guess what? The Olympics were fucking satanic and anti-Christian and promoted, trans fill in the blank. I said, you're kidding. Really? Really? They promoted that? Oh, color me surprised. I think the normies finally see it. Well, one company has ceased their advertising. They're not a huge company. They're like a cable provider in the Mississippi area. So, what they do is they will advertise their services for their company during blocks of time during the Olympics because they know they get more eyeballs. So whatever the local ABC affiliate there is down in Mississippi, right, Jackson or wherever, they buy time, just like the major corporations buy time on the commercial blocks. So do they. And they're like, we're out. We're out. So that's one. Now, the same creative genius that designed the opening ceremonies will also be in charge of the closing ceremonies. So we're not done yet. Paper Dragon. What's up, Paper Dragon? Watch interview with Howard Storm about his NDE. Says told about a time when all electronics would fail. It's in the waning magnetosphere solar flare scenario. That seems like lots of different NDEs. They're fascinating. I like NDE. I like their stories for sure. Let's see what else we have here. There wasn't even a golden calf this time. One shot. Anyone think of Deer Hunter? Oh, good call. You forgot the Olympics. There we go. That's the spirit. More of us should forget. Did you see what the uniforms for the U.S. were? It's just like casual trash. Casual trash. Mocking Jesus was foul, and I'm not a churchgoer at all. Look, my thing is basically, there's always an asterisk. Basically, you don't fuck with other people's religions. Basically. There are some religions that are occult practices masquerading as a religion. Now, that is different. And when that occurs, then you can take out the scalpel and pull it apart. As much as the Christian Zionists get on my fucking nerves because they are codependent perpetrators of the current eschatological drama, the eschatological trauma that's being enforced on the rest of us. I don't really vibe with them. And I think that they're actually dangerous. They're dangerous. So I will not mock the God they worship. And I will not mock the representative of the Son of God, whom they worship as well. I would never do that. However, their interpretation of what's to come and who they're aligned with in order to make that a reality, that is totally fair game. And I have no problem going in on it. Astro Motion. Wham bam. It's Sam. He's here. Lana Labonte. Lana Labonte. Cynthia Cluth, the Olympic opening pushed things one step too far. Even the Parisians are like, what the fuck? Atlantis Rising, one of my favorite tracks from the group Automatic Man. It's more of a triumphal intro to their very underrated album, Automatic Man. The Last Supper was like just asking for it. Definitely. Integrity and Karma in the house. However, they may have something like that happen. The elites of Pluto and Aquarius. I'm not encouraging violence. I wouldn't either. Cynthia Cluth, but it does happen, Susie. It does happen. Oh, what about the convicted pedo from the Netherlands on the male volleyball team? The Olympics have such a warped standard. That's been going on for a while. Joe Potter, what's happening, Joe? Good to see you. Look at that. Look at this. I'm going to throw this up there. I've had a beautiful day at the beach, an appreciative reflection of my life. Bravo. Let's give a little slow hand clap for that. Have many more, Lana. Let's see. Who else do we have here? I wonder if we'll see a bunch of other inconvenient pulmonary mishaps in the games. We might. We know a lot of these people probably sucked on the jack juice. Let's see. Who else do we have here? California Contrarian. Greetings back to you. Are we surprised? No, exactly. Exactly, Lana. Exactly. Yes, he was. Deep state mind control. We have talked about that. We went into it. Charlie, Cirque du Soleil Olympics. Nice, Steve. Nice. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Old World Micmac. What up? What up? Our friend, Dr. Longo, has a new, what do they call them in hip hop? New joint. He's got a new joint over on Old World, Florida, talking about the Knights of the KFC. Very interesting deep dive into fast food and slavery. How about that? Check it out. Michael Charlie, you forgot what he was drinking is Mai Tais. Wow. Ray, I think Jimmy Carter time is coming with the next few weeks with Mars conjunction Dance Jupiter and House of Gemini. So I put this post up on Twitter, and some of you have heard it, but there was this guy, Dr. Peter Bader, and he talked about robotoids, synthetic robotoids, clones, replacements. He was talking about this like back in the 90s. And all of his radio broadcasts are on YouTube. And one of the things that he talks about in those broadcasts is how Jimmy Carter was replaced. And the way that it was going about is that the Russians who had the technology would actually replace the president. It was like, kind of like pod people. And I know it's really far out there and really wild and really weird, right? And it's just another wrinkle in this strange story that we live in. And if you really wanted to control a president, you would just replace them. The synthetic robotoid is different than the clone. It's actually something that appears to be a thing, right? like a real person, but it's not. It's more like, I think, Blade Runner or something like that. But hey, whoever Jimmy Carter is, he's getting up there. So Rand's quite possible. Let's see who else we have here. AM. Look at this. Integrity and Karma. Carter died. Look at that. Carter died. Jimmy's been in hospice for quite some time. Do you remember that photo of Rosalind Carter and Jimmy Carter next to Joe Biden and they look like ventriloquist dummies. That was so fucking weird. Something is very wrong. No, I don't hate Harris. I'm just here in Oakland, California. Plus, black community is really worried. No media of coverage. That's interesting. So I used to live in Oakland. So I'm quite familiar with Oakland. The real black community does not like Kamala Harris. They don't like her because when she was elected senator of California, it was either senator or vice president. I think it was senator of California. She was the first East Indian. This is when she took over Barbara Boxer. She was the first East Indian woman to be elected senator from California. Not West Indian, which is on the other side, but East Indian. And that's on the record. The black community, black, quote unquote, black culture, black Twitter, they know what's up with her. They know what's up with her. There's this saying, like, are they invited to the barbecue? Are they invited to the cookout? Kamala Harris is not invited to the cookout. However, she is invited for cocktails and sushi in Nob Hill for a fundraiser. But she's not invited to the cookout. Let's see. Who else do we have here? DNC could still go off the rails. Maybe. They may not even have their convention physically. We'll see what happens. Let's see. The two shows on Kamala were. Thank you, Shelley. She had like 67 people show, 68. You can't. The optics, right? The optics don't always match. Go back to 2020. Trump had thousands. Joe Biden had maybe a dozen, 20. And that's why the results were even more debilitating, demoralizing. So don't always go by optics. Optics don't mean anything. Kamala may be a placeholder. I don't think so. I don't think so. No. It's too late, and they can't switch tracks now, right? They can't do that. It would be too much confusion. There's too much confusion. And we're going to talk about Kamala. We're going to talk about her. We're going to look at her chart. And I'm going to tell you who I think she is and why they can't move off of her. It's not, some of it is logistics, but some of it is who she is. That's called a tease. Okay. Who else do we have here? Delegates can get slippery. Yes, this is true. I was in Harlem in September. Pretty sure they feel the same way on the East Coast. Most of them were upset with migrants taking over Harlem. That's right. But that's not who they're going after. They're going after the white liberal female vote. And there's going to be a massive concert fundraiser for Kamala Harris with Beyonce and Taylor Swift and Jay-Z and all these people. And they are going to raise a huge amount of money. It'll probably break some kind of internet record for most eyeballs and views. That is coming, right? And what they want to do is they want to bounce off that energy, bounce off that money. So Kamala is going after. Now, if you just look at millennials, the millennials are the second largest demographic after boomers. Like Gen X, I'm sorry, your boomer parents, They weren't as procreative as, unfortunately, my generation. I should have had a millennial kid because I was of that age in my 20s, right? Because that's usually when people have kids. But I skipped a beat and I got a Gen Zer. But there are more millennials than there are Gen Xers. And usually there's more females than males in any demographic. So they are going after hardcore the millennial female vote. Here, let's just find out how much that is. Let's just do a quickie. So how many, of course, this is all rough, right? How many millennials are there in US, in the United States? Okay, in the US. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to show you this. This is who they're going after. This is the vote they're going after with Kamala. So there are 72.7 million millennials, making them the largest generation group in the country. This is a 21.7 share of the U.S. population. Millennials are people born between 1981 and 1996. It's about right for Saturn. Saturn's in late Pluto and Libra up until 84, 85, it really kicks in. But I don't really have a problem with that. And they recently surpassed baby boomers as the largest adult demographic. They're expected to remain a major part of the population for many years to come. So the millennials are going to be a part of the new world. Now, unfortunately, the millennials, and I'm sure there are many fine millennials. Some of you are right in that chat. So this is not directed directly at you, but as a generational thing that Pluto and Scorpio, millennials are here to burn things down. That's what Pluto and Scorpio does. Now, do they build things in the aftermath? Do they create a new system or new civilization or new society, in the ashes? I don't know. Maybe, but that's what they're here to do. That's why a lot of millennials are involved in these ideas of social Marxism, right? Cultural Marxism. It even goes into Neptune and Uranus, which were in Capricorn for a big chunk of that millennial stretch, right? And Capricorn, Capricorn is culture. Capricorn is government. Capricorn is the top of the pyramid, right? It is the apex, theoretically, of civilization. It is hierarchies. It is Saturn. It is the father. It is the grandfather. That's Capricorn. When you, as a generation, have Neptune in Capricorn and Uranus in Capricorn, that makes your relationship with all those things that I talked about very different. Am I right? I was on a thread tonight on Twitter, and it felt like a millennial thread, and there's some truth to it. There are all these older people dancing around, and they're boogie woogieing or whatever, and basically the guy was saying, "Oh, you took out that reverse mortgage, and now you're not going to leave a house for your children or your grandchildren, and you're just going to party your life away, and we're not going to have a chance at the American dream. Like, thank you and fuck you, boomers." Okay. There's some truth to that. I'm not going to dispute the fact that the boomers ate high on the hog. It's just the way it is. It's the way it is. They were there first, right? They got in first. It's life, right? It's like the oldest kid. The oldest kid gets all the goodies pretty much, right? Gets the whatever, right? Well, the family business, or usually that's what happens. That's who the boomers are. They're like the oldest kid. Um, if you're going to lay blame at the feet of the boomers, then you may want to address not just the people, but the leadership of the boomers. Here we come into contact with Bill and Hillary Clinton, who really are the representation of boomer leadership, right? He's a boomer president. So if you want to point the finger at a boomer, point a finger at Bill and Hillary Clinton, who basically sold the United States to fucking China and took away all these jobs. Oh, well, what else did Bill Clinton do? You ever hear of NAFTA? North American Free Trade? You ever hear of that? Let's see. When did NAFTA start? 1992. 1992. And it went into effect in 1994. So it was signed by George Bush, who, by the way, is a part of the Bush-Clinton continuum. So you can't really pull them apart. And then it goes into effect in 1994 when Bill Clinton is president. Bill Clinton was never going to touch NAFTA. Now, could Ross Perot have done an executive order and repealed NAFTA? I don't know. It's an interesting question. They seem to be able to do it for just about anything else, right? So the Clintons clearly didn't protest all that much. So the ball really starts rolling downhill with the Clintons. Let's just put that on the table. Then you have, guess what? Another boomer, George W. Bush. And he keeps it rolling. So this is the leadership, so-called leadership. And then you get Obama, who is, it's not really a boomer, but if you look at the demographics, it would say, some people would say, yeah, he is a boomer. Born in 1961, he's more like Generation Jones, more like me. Not the same as Bill, Hillary, even Trump. Trump is a boomer too, right? So it's not necessarily the people themselves, but it does have a lot to do with the leadership. And again, I've talked about this before. We're going to get into the millennial thing. I got to get back to the millennial thing. We've talked about this before, but it wasn't really cool to be involved in politics for a very long time. I mean, the country was going fairly well, right? It was going fairly well. People were able to participate in the American dream, and generally politicians were considered mostly trustworthy. And then 9/11 happens, and then things rapidly descend from that point forward. And you have this political awakening of people happening, but they're waking up in the midst of this nightmare. If you were to have these conversations back in the 90s with people, they would have thought you were crazy. Totally crazy. It was like, what are you talking about? These things aren't true. You're absolutely nuts. So no, really, trust me, this is happening, right? And this is going on, and this is going on. This NAFTA thing is going to lead to this, right? And they're like, oh, shut up. Life's good. Cut another line. But now these conversations are happening all the time, almost too frequently in some ways. So it's definitely a point in our history where we're waking up. But it was I just want to get this on the table to people, right? It was very hard for people to have a sense of imminent threat. If you're in the United States, it was very hard to have a sense of imminent threat. That changed. The conversation changed. You know, if you go back in time and look at the 60s, you know, the so-called boomers were the ones that championed civil rights and the war on poverty and you know, all the things that were socially not just acceptable, but they were socially promoted. So there was a time when boomers were very politically active, very, very politically active. You know, they marched arm in arm, you know, down in, I don't know, Macon or Alabama or whatever, right? Montgomery, the Freedom Riders. I mean, all that stuff. Like that's all boomer stuff. Like a lot of that's boomer stuff. The anti-war movement, again, boomer stuff. And those are all they were leaning into the political left. So in their minds, again, if you just look historically at boomers, in their minds, that's what they were doing. They were doing the right thing politically at that time. Unfortunately, it was like the Pied Piper playing their flute. So it's not as if they weren't politically active. They just weren't. And again, if you were to go back and look at what the alternatives were on the right, they weren't that pretty. They were stark. You had like the John Birch Society, and God forbid you were involved in the John Birch Society. I remember when I was a kid, I was on this little league team. It was a pretty good little team. I think I might have been about 10. And we were at the parents' house of one of the guys in the team. We're in the backyard, and somehow a little pamphlet for the John Birch Society. I remember this. What it was it had wound up in their backyard, like maybe their neighbor on the other side of the fence or something. I don't know how the fuck this little pamphlet for the John Birch Society winds up in this guy's backyard. And his son picks it up and looks at it, and the father sees it and with like almost like repulsion. He was reviled. Like, give me that. And he snatches it away. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck happened there? Right? You know, it left an impression on my brain because I read it. It's like something, the John Birch Society. Oh. It was like a smut mag or something. Anyway. All right, let's take a look at this number. 72.7 million millennials. All right. Let me do a little math here. Usually it's about 57% of the population are female, right? Am I right? Not 50, but about 53%. She's around 53.47, if I'm not mistaken. All right. Let me see if I can do this here. Okay, so 7, 6, 1, 1, 2. Let's see. We got so let's see, 76. Let's do another 0. I think that's about. You got 1, 2, 3. Now you got to take 1 0 off. Hold on. Okay, so that's 76. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. Divided by, it's got 53% equals, let's see. So what is that? Roughly 38 million. Is that about right? About 38 million. 38 million. Out of that 38 million, those are women, by the way. Out of that 38 million, let's say Oh, I don't know. Let's say 5 million are conservative, because I think millennials trend heavily into the left. 35 million. So that's 35 million potential voters for Kamala Harris. 35 million. That's just females. Am I right? I think I'm pretty close on this. How many votes did Biden have supposedly last time? 200 million. So they have 30, let's say it's 35 million. Let's say they got every vote available to them for 35 million. And let's say on the male millennial side, they got 15 million. 15 million. So what do we got? 40, 50 million. There'd be 50 million votes for Harris. You might have to shave a few off for the black community who's not behind her as much as you think they may be. But let's just say that's 50 million. Boomers come out for Democrats. So how many boomers are there left? Right now, as of 2021, that's probably changed. There's about I'd say there's probably about 72 million baby boomers in the US. So now we have theoretically 50 million. We're going to slap off 26 million of the millennial vote. This is if everybody votes. So we're going to have 50 million on the millennial side. I'm going to go on the boomer side. You'd be surprised at how many boomer Democrats there are. I would say your conservative core is going to come from mostly Gen X and some of my generation, which is Gen Jones. So they're going to come mostly from that. All right, so let's peel off. Let's split it in half, and then we'll take off, let's say, maybe 5 million votes. I'll go 50-50 on the boomers. So now we're up to 80 million votes for Harris. 80 million votes. Okay, so how many Gen X in the US? Let's just do this. Gen X is 65.2 million. So we're at 80 million. Again, we'll go with the 53-47 formula. So 53% of 65 million is going to be what, around 37 million? We're just for women. We're just talking women. 37 million. Okay. So out of the 37 million women, again, we're just going across for everybody. Let's say everybody gets out and votes. We know it's not going to happen. But out of the 37 million, I think Gen X is going to trend more towards conservative than liberal. But we're going to peel off about maybe, I go with maybe 20 million. 20 million votes, people. Boom. Right? So now we're about 100 million. 100 million people voting for Kamala Harris. That's nowhere near Biden territory. So they're going to have to pick up some, let's do Gen Z, who are eligible to vote. Not all of them are, but a lot of them are. So the census for Gen Z is 69 million. And the oldest of Gen Z goes back to 1996, in my estimation, right? 1996. And that gets up to roughly, 2009. So out of that 69 million, I would say probably about maybe 60 million are voter eligible. We'll go with 60 million voter eligible. Okay. Again, we'll do the 53-47 formula. So we're talking around 33 million, roughly 33 million women. Gen Z tends to be a lot more conservative and based. I'm not going to give them that many. So out of that 33 million, again, just if everybody's voting, I would say maybe 10 million women, maybe 5 million men. So we're at around 145 million votes. If we're playing the election game correctly, I think Trump gets more votes than that. But I don't think we play the election game correctly. And I'm going to show you later on what I mean by that. All right. So I think, again, based on the generations, there's 145 to 150 million rough votes available for Harris. There would be more if she wasn't as divisive in the Black community. But how much more? I don't know. Maybe you could throw on another 20 million votes. So what are we up to? 165, roughly? In an election where it seems like most people are going to try and vote their way out of this, whatever. There's going to be a lot of votes. All right. Now, what we haven't factored in is the new people that are here. So how many votes are they accountable for? I would say conservatively 5 million. Let's say 7 million have crossed the border since the day that Obama waved the starting flag. Not Obama, Biden waved the starting flag in 2020. That gets you another 5 million voters. You could theoretically get somewhere between 175 to 180 million. Now you're getting into an interesting territory where it's getting closer to Trump. Okay. And when where you're in that range, I think that's around 165 to 180 million, you can start to play with the variables. So anyway, has nothing to do with astrology, but I think it's an interesting exercise in breaking down the generations and trying to come up with some reasonable voting statistics. And by the way, I am not a pollster. It's just something that I thought we could do in real time. All right. Why don't we do this? Why don't we jump into the Olympics? Let's just dive headfirst into the Olympics. And let's just look at the chart for the opening ceremony. And then we'll, by the end, we'll get into like the chart of the moment and stuff, and we'll take a look at the week ahead. We'll do that. That'll be the last thing we do. Normally we do it first. We're going to go backwards today. We got a Mercury retrograde coming up. Okay. By the way, can I tell you I'm excited? Can I tell you I'm excited? Do you know why I'm excited? I am taking my son to a Cubs game. Even though I'm not a Cubs fan, but it is the closest stadium to where he's going to college. And I'm taking him to actually it's an Oakland A's game at Wrigley Field, and I've never been to Wrigley Field before. So I'm very excited about this. All right, let's get into the Olympics, which I'm not very excited about. Okay. So all you boomers, all you millennials out there, if you got an axe to grind, you may want to grind some of that axe with the people who have opened the borders and are working feverishly to make you even more expendable than you might currently be. With the advent of AI and automation, I know a lot of people poo-poo that. Oh, it'll never happen. It's all fake. No, you wait. It'll happen. It'll happen. Customer service jobs, they'll be gone. Via phone, they'll be gone. Right? Fast food jobs, California, they're already gone. Well, fast food jobs, who needs that? Well, I tend to agree with you. But until we have a stable replacement for whatever that is, those jobs go away. Right? So the automation is coming. So the replacement will either be somebody who can, I was talking, okay, here we go. Here's another great example. Right. I was talking to a friend of the show today. He was texting me and he walked up to a guy in Home Depot in California. He looked black, but the language he was speaking was nothing that he recognized. So all of a sudden, we have these guys from sub-Saharan Africa now working at Home Depot. Could those jobs have gone to somebody else? Maybe. Like, what is the priority model? And it was more than one. Right? There was more than one guy because he's really funny. He started, well, let me just kind of walk around a little bit and see what they say. And they were like hanging out and said, no language that I've ever heard. Right? Millennials, it's not just the boomers. It's not just the boomers. There are forces that are being perpetrated by even members of your own generation. See, this is the hard part. That when Obama was elected president, he's born in 1961, theoretically, and I believe that. I'm like, oh yeah, here's a guy. He's part of my generation. Oh no, it's him. Oh fuck. Right? Like we have to sometimes come to terms that even people in our own generation don't even have our best interests at heart, which unfortunately is true. All right. So this is the opening ceremony of the Olympics. What I found really interesting was what was going on here in terms of the third house and the fourth house. Now notice that the fifth house rather, in the fifth house is open. But over here in the third house, you have Neptune, you have the true node, you have the moon, you have Chiron, Aries, athletes, warriors, all that Olympic stuff. But what is the third house? The third house is ruled by Gemini. So what are you going to get? You're going to get the flip. You're going to get the inversion in Gemini. So you're going to get the theoretical other side of Aries. It won't be even somebody like Jesus, right? 29 degrees, Neptune, Pisces, third house. You get the inverted model. You get the white Lizzo with the spiky S&M Corona, right? That's what you get. And then you get a litany of drag queens. That is Neptune retrograde in the third house. That is where you get your sacrilege because it's inverted. It's also part of a yod. Mercury in Virgo conjunct Regulus. Now, this is a very interesting theme. And again, it's something that I have been talking about. I talked about it on Friday as it relates to children of men, as it relates to Kamala Harris. In 2011, Regulus, fixed star Regulus, moved from Leo to Virgo. And I cannot stress how much of an impact this has made on our world. And you can say, okay, well, all of a sudden, this fixed star that literally regulates the sky has gone from masculine to feminine, right? Because that's what it did. It went from masculine. It had been in Leo since the time of Jesus. Yeah, that's right. The time of Jesus. It had been in Leo. And now it's in Virgo. It's feminine energy. Virgo is feminine, mutable energy. We went from the time of heroes and kings and Hollywood stars and athletes and everything that goes along with that kind of Olympian model, for better or worse. For better or worse. And we can come up with a bunch of bad examples and we can come up with a bunch of good examples, right? But that model shifted, and it shifted in 2011. And now we're not in that part of the universe anymore. Hollywood is dead. Leo is typified of Hollywood and movies, right? Stars. You know, what is the star that regulates the entire galaxy? It's the galactic center, but at the top, it's Regulus, right? That's what it means. It means regulate. So that's what we've been dealing with. We've been dealing with these luminaries who have been larger than life stars. And ever since 2011, we've been ratcheting down. There is no more Hollywood anymore. And then the Hollywood that we do have has become this system where all these new rules have been applied. And all you got to do is, what's her name? Catherine Kennedy, the woman who runs Disney. That is a symbol of Regulus and Virgo. We're going to take a woman, not a man, and we're going to put her in charge of Disney, one of the most powerful movie studios of all time. Right? And not just any woman, but a woman that wants to get out a different kind of message. Right? That's what we're dealing with. It's not like, Sherry Lansing saying, okay, well, let's make some more Terminator movies. It made us a lot of money. No, they started to fuck up the MCU, and everything became about a message. And that message was a drastic departure from the heroic tales of Leo. Whatever you think about, right, with Leo, and whatever you think about sort of the mythology of Leo in terms of its pantheon, stars, culture, politics, legacy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Like, that's over. That's over. So who did we have as a representation of Jesus? It was a woman, right? That's your Regulus. That is a symbol, the new symbol of Regulus. It's a bad symbol of Regulus, by the way. So there's Mercury right on Regulus. What's it doing? It's like, hey, look at this. Are you paying attention? This is why if you look at the rise of female leaders since 2011, it's kind of off the charts. I mean, we get Jacinda Ardern down in New Zealand. We get Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland. You get Eos. I mean, you get all these women, right? They're all being floated to the top. And again, I am not here. I've been called a misogynist, by the way, but I'm not here to bash women. I'm just giving you a picture. And some of those women can be very capable. I'm not saying that they're not capable, but you could just see, right? And the men that sort of get promoted are kind of secondary, tertiary kind of cucky man. Look at Justin Trudeau. He's not a very strong male, right? He gets promoted during this time. So these are the things that I'm talking about. So this is what happens with this symbol of Jesus during the Olympics. It's a woman. It's Mercury. It's broadcasting. It's at zero Regulus. What else is going on here? Well, we have a yod. We have a yod. Houston, we have a yod. Neptune and Pluto. Right here, right? What is this all about? Well, it's Aquarian. It's Aquarian. And Tommy Jolly, the creative director of the opening ceremonies, happens to be an Aquarian. Yes, he is. Of course he is. Of course he is. So we have Pluto and Aquarius, right? And you get it's kind of scraping the bowels of Aquarius. I know, I'm just telling you. It's like, oh yeah, here we go. Oh, isn't this precious? Can you please just come up with a litany of cliches that any one of us could have thought of if we had given it enough time? Really? Like, I think if you sat down and say, hey, what would be the most sacrilegious thing that you could portray at the Olympics? Oh, I know. What about the Last Supper? And they're all trannies. How many of you could sit down and have a little focus group? It would take maybe 4 or 5 of you. It would probably take you about 20 minutes to sit down and throw a bunch of ideas around there. I guarantee you one of them would have come up with it. One of you would have come up with it. It's like, really, it's not very new. It's not very original. Yeah, it may be shocking for middle America, but for the rest of us that have had our faces rubbed in this shit pie, it's like par for the course. And that's your Pluto right there, right? Pluto. It's like we're going to shove this dark Aquarian retrogradian model up to Mercury, and that's going to be the broadcast. That's what we're going to transmit. And Neptune retrograde, there is your Last Supper right there. Right? That is the imagery. The 29th degree of Pisces is really like the degree of the crucifixion. And that is the last meal that Jesus will have, right? So what do you get at 29 Pisces? You get the last freaking supper. And it's part of the yod right here. So, but those are forces that are kind of exerting their, for lack of a better term, their unconscious will upon Mercury. And remember, these are transpersonal signs. And so somebody in chat said, well, now the normies are getting it. Yeah. Don't think that the normies haven't been getting it. They have been, but yeah, they've been really getting it, right? The problem is that, there's a lot of death and destruction happening in Gaza, and a lot of the normies aren't getting that, but that's a different story. So there we go. That is really, and if you look at this, Mercury is the highest planet in the chart. So that's the one that's going to have the most juice, right? The first and the last planet in a chart has the most juice, right? So the first planet in the chart, if it's your chart, it is often a signature planet in your chart. If it's in the first house, no matter what it is, whatever the first planet is, your chart is not only defined by your rising sign, but it's also defined by the first planet in your chart. And then the highest planet in the chart, what I mean highest, anything that's before the midheaven, that defines your aspiration. That is what you are moving towards in your chart and in your lifetime, first and last. Very important. This is the highest planet in the chart. What do we have after that? We have part of fortune. We have Juno. We have Black Moon Lilith, the South Node. None of those are planets. Well, David Sereda thinks Juno's a planet, but until further notice, it's not a planet. And what's interesting is that it is in the 8th house, and that is a house that is what? Occulted. All the water houses are occulted. Even the 4th house is occulted. Why? You think 12th house is definitely what does it mean? It means hidden. It means hidden. And so in the 12th house, you may be hidden in a hospital, or you may be hidden in a prison, or you may be hidden in a monastery, or you may be hidden in a whorehouse, but you're hidden. The 8th house, dark, deep, the underworld, dungeons, right? Motivations, hidden. The 4th house is behind the 4 walls of your house. It's hidden. It's much more accessible. Somebody could knock on the door, open it up, and you're in, but it's still occulted. It's still hidden. So the 8th house, it's in the house that is occulted. What else do we have? We have Venus and Leo there. And then we have, I think, the Scorpio in the midheaven. That's what we get, right? We get Scorpio on the midheaven. Of course we do. And then that ascendant, it's not quite Capricorn. Like it starts at 7:30 p.m. Paris time. It's not quite Capricorn. It's 2956 Sagittarius. We'll go 0 Capricorn because that's what the Sabian symbol for it would be. But it's still not quite there, right? It's like hanging at the cusp of freedom. It's hanging by a thread, right? The little sinewy like piece of tendon just hanging there. Kind of like the melted clocks in the background. 5th house. These are athletes, by the way. The 5th house is athletes. Athletes, performers. This is what people do in the Olympics. They perform. They're athletic. So Uranus and Mars there. Of course, it's going to be weird. Of course. And Mars squaring Mercury, it's going to anger people. It's going to bring a lot of shit up. And Uranus squares Mercury as well. So it's going to be shocking for some people. For the rest of us, it's like just blasé shit. Right? That's just blasé shit. You got to come on. You got to do better. You got to do better. Now, this is the unfortunate problem with a lot of these events is like if you look at the Super Bowls and the halftime shows, the Super Bowls, or these award ceremonies where they're all these satanic rituals. They've just become them. They don't even mask them anymore. Before they kind of masked them a little bit. Now it's just completely revelation of the method. They don't care. Masks are off. And one of the things that I have read in more than one place is that when you see a public ritual like the Super Bowl or the VMAs or the Oscars or whatever, and including the Olympics, there is another ritual going on that you don't see. Paris is a city of catacombs. Paris is a city that is riddled with a labyrinth of the underground. That's why they talk about the underground resistance, right, during World War II. The Parisians had access to these catacombs. That's the 8th house, by the way, in the physical location of Paris. So my question is, what was going on in the places we couldn't see? Because that's how they potentiate the rituals. And it's a terrible thought to entertain. Because they're showing us on one level what's happening. On another level, it's kind of like when Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman in Kinshasa, Zaire. they fought in the soccer stadium there, open air soccer stadium. What a crazy idea that was. That soccer stadium was the home of all these Zairians who'd gotten slaughtered. And a lot of it took place actually beneath the soccer stadium. And I'm not saying that it happened during the fight with Ali. I'm just telling you, like beneath that soccer stadium, that's where they would take the people who were not down with the dictatorship and take them out. It's just an example. It wasn't happening in real time, but there are things that happen beneath the surface of the things that we can be watching. So is that happening in Paris? Yeah, more than likely, right? Like if you're really serious, you're really serious about a ritual, there has to be a sacrifice. Now, you could say that the boxing coach was the sacrifice of the hero, and that would be enough for the ritual. Maybe there's more. Paris has always reminded me of a very occult place. I've been to Paris a few times. I was there for my 40th birthday. It was an interesting time. Anyway, but there's so much going on here. You know, there's a lot happening here. And again, it's the third house. It's Gemini and it's inverted. It's all inverted. That's what Gemini does. It inverts things. We have the Sun Pluto opposition. When you look at the theoretical life of Jesus, it has often been associated with Osiris and Ra and Akhenaten, right? The sun god, the resurrection of the sun, right? So there is solar deity worship here, right? The sun is at 4 Leo and it's opposing Pluto, right? It is the murder of the sun. Pluto, even though it's not conjunct the sun, is on the other side of the sun. And in some ways, it is occulting the sun itself. So it's murdering the sun. Now, what did they do? They metaphorically murdered the sun during the Olympics by changing. When I say sun, I mean SON, not SUN. So astrologically, it's kind of in the pocket. And to me, it's the hard squares going on. It's the hard squares. Mars, Uranus, square Mercury, square Venus, right? Venus, Uranus square. It's like static, electrical, shocking. Again, maybe not to you or me, but to other people, probably, yeah. Shocking. Definitely. To me, the yod is really the thing in this chart. It's the yod and it's Uranus, Mars in the 5th house. Athletes in the inversion. What else do we have? We have a Saturn yod with Venus. I think ultimately that's going to be sponsors. It'll be interesting to see what happens as a result of these shenanigans. Okay, so let me show you the head of the guy. Let me just show you the guy who was the guy who did this. Thomas Jolly. So it says Last Supper was an Olympics opening ceremony inspiration. Okay. Denies Last Supper parody at launch. Producers say the Last Supper inspired that opening ceremony. Many have done it before. And he's blue, right? He's blue. He comes out of a different tradition. He reminds me of Shiva in India, right? And you see this guy's testicles down here. So the producers are saying, "Oh, there's Jesus, theoretically." So the producers are saying, "Yeah, many have done it before." But Mr. Jolly says, "Oh no, it was not a parody of the Last Supper." What else does he say? Our subject was not to be subversive. We never wanted to be subversive. Okay. We wanted to talk about diversity. Diversity means being together. So he's from Rouen. Is that how you pronounce it? Rouen? Rhone? That's where he's from. We wanted to include everyone. Simple as that. In France, we have freedom of creation, artistic freedom. We are lucky in France to live in a free country. I didn't have any specific messages that I want to deliver. In France, we're a republic. We have the right to love whom we want. We have the right not to be worshipers. We have a lot of rights in France. And this is what I wanted to convey. Oh, okay. Well, you didn't do a very good job of conveying it. Sorry. Sorry, Tommy. Let's look at their charts. Now, I have Tommy Jolly as a Gemini rising. I just felt it, right? Wouldn't that be something a Gemini rising would say? I mean, we weren't mocking the Last Supper, and we were not trying to be subversive. That'd be so Gemini rising. Okay, so he's on the outside. We know the time of the Olympics. So where is he in this chart? Well, for instance, his Pluto is conjunct the midheaven. Now, whether he wants to be subversive or not, Pluto in a wide conjunction of the midheaven will often perform that role. Even though Pluto's in Leo, Libra, it's at the end of Libra, and it's conjunct the midheaven. He has Jupiter in Scorpio in the 10th house. And if you're going to put on a production, this is going to be your calling card right there. It's going to be on display for the entire world to see. So what does Jupiter do? It brings us more of something. And it is in its detriment in Scorpio. So you just get more of what? You get more of the underworld. You get more of the occult. You get more of, I mean, I'm sure in some people's minds, well, that's just, a symbol of brotherly and sisterly love. And in other people's minds, it's filth. It's filth. It's sacrilegious filth. That's what Jupiter in Scorpio will bring. It brings more, right? But it is also bringing it up from the bowels. So again, to some of the comments that have been talked about in chat, of course, that's going to be the normie factor. Jupiter in Scorpio, 10th house. Oh, look at this fucking shit. Can you believe this? Honey, can you believe this shit? I'm sorry. So he has a very interesting South Node Venus conjunction in Capricorn. First of all, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that, he's somebody who probably likes men. I have no judgment with that. But to me, this South Node Venus conjunction in Capricorn is like older men. Older men. So I feel like, again, this guy, he doesn't have a huge background. Like if you wanted somebody to do the opening ceremony, why not hire Luc Besson? Like the guy that brought us the Fifth Element, right? The what should we call it? The Joan of Arc movie with Mila Jovovich, right? Why don't you hire that guy to be the creative director? He would have done something interesting. And he's not above being a little provocative. Just look at Chris Tucker in The Fifth Element. So why not have that guy? He's been around. Danny Boyle, a film director, did the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. Why not Luc Besson? No, you have to get this guy who didn't have much of a track record, except for like a 24-hour Shakespeare marathon. Somebody somewhere up there in Parisian Olympic Committee world, I think, had a hands-on relationship with Tommy Jolly. That's what I think. Oh, yes. Oh, it is going to be so diverse. It is going to be so diverse. Oh la la. He's an Aquarian. This Mercury's retrograde. So what are you going to do when you get a Mercury retrograde and you make a big statement? Yeah, you're going to get some blowback. Well, it was not a parody. We can love whomever we want. And I can make Jesus look like whoever I want because this is France and we can do this. Do you think if he had done that with if he had done that with the Muslims, if he had done that with the Muslims, and that guy was Muhammad, how do you think the Muslim community would feel? Oh, I think Paris would be on fire. It'd be on fire. So we get the retrograde. Well, I'll be shocking. And then you're going to get the blowback for it too. His Neptune is conjunct the ascendant of the event. Well, that's interesting. But again, does he take responsibility for it? No. Neptune, by the way, is also related to Pisces. It is the ruling planet of Pisces. Of course, Pisces is connected to the Piscean age, which is connected to Jesus, right? So what do we have here? Well, we have his Neptune and his Pluto in a yod with Uranus, and then on the outskirts, Mars. That's his Neptune, that's his Pluto, sextile yod to Mars. Fifth house, athletics, performance, right? We just talked about that. So his Neptune, his Pluto, ninth house, conjunct the midheaven, Neptune, 12th house, conjunct the ascendant, funneling right into the performance. So what does all that mean? Well, he's got Pluto conjunct Sag, Pluto conjunct Mars, all in Libra. This guy, I tell you right now that he had a hellacious relationship with his father. I don't think his relationship was all that jolly. Pluto, Saturn, Mars. And maybe it was other male figures in his life, like perhaps a priest or somebody like that, right? I think this guy's been violated. And his violation is being expressed as hatred. Now, he may be professing love for a very small group of people, and that's fine. But by doing that, he, like, in no way, shape, or form did I see anybody even remotely kind of real. Because this is what we're talking about. So I think that that's being, it's like, okay, well, let me do this. Let me create this event, these opening ceremonies, and let me burn the fucker down. Because somebody somewhere, more than likely my dad, Pluto, Saturn, Mars, hello, right? We got a little, we're gonna have to click out. I'll be right back. Don't go away. I'll be right back. I'm gonna lose all my, I know, I'll get him back. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So getting back, I'm going to wrap this up. I don't want to spend too much more time on it. But I can tell you that he's got a bone to pick. He's got a bone to pick with the world because something happened to him. More than likely with his father, or some other authority figure, but it wouldn't extend outside of the local priest. He feels violated. This guy feels violated, and he's going to take it out on the rest of the world. Opposition. All these planets are opposing all of these planets down here, right? Venus versus Mars. Interesting. So there you go. Thomas Jolly. Who'd have thought an Aquarian would think that up? Oh, come on. I love you, Aquarians. But we got to give our sign shit every now and then. Right? Look at me. I'm a Virgo. I'm not even a very good Virgo. I should aspire to be a better Virgo. All right. Shall we talk about Kamala Harris? Shall we shift our attention to Lady Kamala? Let's bring up the thumbnail for tonight's show. Oh no, we can't go there yet. We can't go there. There's one other symbol that I cannot not talk about for these Olympics, and you guys know what it is. Come on. Something reminded me. You know what that is. Right here. Of course, it's Algol. It's Uranus conjunct Algol, and we have the representation of Algol. It is Marie Antoinette. Oh, and now Marie Antoinette is singing. Oh, isn't that quaint? And covered in blood. This goes back to the Kathy Griffin moment, right? I don't get a good feeling about these Olympics. I really don't. Algol, for all of you who are new to the show, is in the constellation Perseus. It is the blinking star. It is at 26 degrees Taurus, and it is connected with beheadings, lynchings. Even apparently, there was was it the soccer team? The opening ceremony with the teams marching was, I think, would have been like one of the Islamic countries, and they're doing this, right? They're doing this and chanting Allahu Akbar. I'm pretty sure that's what was happening, right? That is a symbol of Algol, like cut their throats, slit their throats. So not only do we see it here with Marie Antoinette, we also see it with the team who was doing that. So they're channeling the revolutionary energy, right? That's what this is about. They're priming the pump for revolutionary energy. Now, I do have some French Revolution charts here. Let me just tee them up really fast. Okay. So let's see. Tuesday, May 5th, 1789. The sun is in Taurus, and the south node is on Algol. So this is considered to be the start of the French Revolution. Tuesday, May 5th, 1789. May 5th is also Robespierre's birthday. So there is the South Node. Let's throw some transits in there. Oh, look at that. Good old Algol on the South Node of the French Revolution. So when the French Revolution started, the idea was the True Node in Scorpio. What is that all about? Well, it's about acquiring other people's income. It's about acquiring other people's money. What do you think happened when they killed off the royalty in France during the French Revolution? Oh, they stole a bunch of shit. Who's they? Well, the perpetrators of the revolution. And if you think that Robespierre was the mastermind behind everything, he was fairly high on the totem pole, but he wasn't the mastermind of the French Revolution. There were other forces who were behind Robespierre. And the whole idea was to eliminate the fucking competition. Right? All under the pretense of liberté. That's that True Node in Scorpio. It's like, we're going to get it. We're going to get the shit that we haven't earned. And we're going to use the people to be our battering ram. And it's the South Node in Taurus. Off for their heads. Literally off for the heads. Back then, I think Algol was a little bit off. Right, Algol's there at about 24. It's changed, right? Algol's at 26. So, whoops. Theoretically, it would be right there now, right? Right there. So, right around the midpoint between Algol then and the South Node then. Look at that right there. And that's what we get. That is what we get. We get Marie Antoinette. Look at Saturn. Look at that. We almost have a perfect hit with Saturn. 20 Pisces, 18 Pisces. So Saturn's in place. That is pretty interesting. 2 degrees off Saturn at the start of the French Revolution. Very interesting. Oh, got a little Pluto and Aquarius there too. Let me just see here. Let me make sure I got the right one. Hold on one sec. French Revolution, May 5th. I got 2 of them. French Revolution. I just have to make sure I have the right one. Yeah. $1792. Wait, hold on. All right, French Revolution. French Revolution. Just got to make sure that my dates line up. Got to be, yep, May 5th, 1789. They stormed the gates of the Bastille on July 14th. So we got the right one. We have the right one. Interesting. Okay, let me go back. So that's the chart right there. That's the reanimation of the opening ceremony and the French Revolution. Saturn, Pluto in Aquarius, but a few degrees off, obviously. That's way down the line. What else? Jupiter on Chiron. But to me, that's the kicker. Right there. Right there. Interesting. All right. So I just wanted to bring that up and kind of cover that a little bit. The Marie Antoinette thing with Algol. All right, let's get into Mamala. All right. There she is. Here comes the colors of Mercury and Venus. So what do I mean by that? You're going to see a lot more of this in the days, weeks, and months to come. These are Kamala Harris's power colors. And where do they come from? They come from her sorority, Alpha, Kappa, Alpha. And they are part of what's called the Divine Nine, which are the female and male fraternities and sororities that are part of the Greek system in college campuses. So these are what we would call Black fraternities or African American fraternities. On Friday's show, if you followed it, there is a direct connection between all of these fraternities and secret societies. They are the Instapot for secret societies. And they will pull people from these sororities and fraternities and move them up the chain and through various other groups. So, for instance, in the Divine Nine, for the men, a lot of them would move into Prince Hall Freemasonry, which is the primarily black arm of Freemasonry. And then within that group, you have what's called the Boule. And the Boule is a separate group that is connected to the so-called elites in, again, the so-called black community. So the members of these groups wind up sort of migrating upwards and being placed in positions of power. Kamala Harris is one of those people. And her sorority is Alpha Alpha. And if I'm not mistaken, the figure that they venerate is a Set, who is like a sacred concubine. That's really the role of a Set, right? That is their symbol of veneration. And if you look at Kamala Harris's past, she's not really deviating too far from the symbolic veneration of her sorority. So their colors are green and pink. Pink is a color associated with Mercury. Venus is green. Green is a color associated with Venus. Hence, Mercury and Venus. The signal for Alpha Kappa Alpha is pinkies up. Pinky, of course, being related to Mercury. Pinky is the finger of Mercury. So not only is pink the color, but pinky is the symbol of Mercury. So if you were to put Mercury, right, who and Venus together, Mercury is Hermes and Venus is Aphrodite. You put them together and you get the hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite. The mighty hermaphrodite. The symbol of the masculine and the feminine. Where else do we see a version, perhaps a bit more of a coarse version of Aphrodite, but a version nonetheless? It is right here. Baphomet. Baphomet is both masculine and feminine, right? Baphomet is a manifestation of the hermaphroditic god. That is why there is trans worship. Oh, and a cute little Baphomet. Cute little Baphomet. All right, getting back to Kamala Harris. That's what we get. When we combine Venus and Mercury, Hermes, Aphrodite, we get the hermaphrodite. Now, some people have said that Kamala is actually a man, right? A man who is or has gone through either some kind of surgical change or there's some kind of sort of plastic surgery or augmentation going on. See, they don't have to run another person who is probably much closer to what we would envision like a bathymetric character, certain person who is the wife of a former president who does happen to be a Capricorn, by the way. So that's a much more explicit version of that. Harris is, I would say, the feminine version of that. But I don't think it necessarily matters all that much. What I mean by that is that, yes, there is this in there, but what I mean is that there's more. There's more to Harris and her chart and how it relates to all of this. Right? I just think it's interesting when you blend the two together, because those are the colors, right? Green and pink are the colors of her sorority, Mercury and Venus, Hermes and Aphrodite, Hermaphrodite. There's always been a little question about Kamala. Just a little bit of questions. All right. So why don't we do this? I'm going to go in and I'm going to bring up her chart. And I'm going to show you why I think this is an interesting and important point of discussion for us to look at. Give me 1 second. Let me just pull her chart up here. Okay. Well, I just had it. Come on, Kamala. Where are you? Kamala, my house. Kamala, my house. Did I take her out of this? Ah. There she is, right there. All right. Okay, when you look at her chart, pay attention now. Pay attention. Pay attention at home, boys and girls. What's her rising sign? Gemini. What's the ruler of Gemini? Mercury. What's her sun sign? Libra. What's the ruler of Libra? Venus. So those literally are her colors. They are her colors. They're not only her sororities colors, they're her colors because they represent her rising sign and they represent her sun sign. Now, here's a little astrology, kind of 101. Anytime you have the sun at a harmonic angle to the ascendant, that gives the individual charisma. Whatever you think about her, whether she's a noodle brain, I don't really think she's a noodle brain. I think a lot of what she was doing for the last 4 years, she was sandbagging and making herself look ditzy. She's got Mercury and Scorpio. It trines Saturn in her chart. She is fucking calculating. She's calculating. She's born in a full moon, which we talked about in Aries, right? So if anything, she may have that moon Mercury opposition and, it may make her look, I don't know, more emotional or, it's just doesn't come across as being intellectual, right? But she's not dumb. I can tell you that. She's not dumb. Mercury and Scorpio is very, very intense and clever. And they Mercury and Scorpio can play politics. He wants to get to the top. right? She wants you. And let's talk about how she got there. Right? How did she get there? Well, Judge Joe Brown minced no words about Kamala. But let's just look at the chart. He was so graphic. He even embarrassed Kwame Brown. I'm like, Kwame Brown was like a middle schooler with Judge Joe Brown. He couldn't believe what was coming out of his mouth. Judge Joe Brown called her a witch. And he basically, and this is his words, he said, she fucked her way to the top. Minced no words about it. All right. We're going to go back to that in a second. All right. Let's revisit the sun trine the ascendant. I'm telling you, anytime you have a sun trining the ascendant or sun even sextiling the ascendant, the individual can transmit charisma. The biggest and most potent transmission of charisma in the chart would be the sun in the 5th house in trine with the ascendant. Again, I'm not here to ring Kamala's bell. I'm just telling you astrologically how this works, right? I try not to pull any punches here. When Kamala Harris flips on her switch, she can run that. So remember, the sun here is in rulership. Even though it's in Libra, it is in rulership. It's accidental rulership because it's the 5th house. This is Leo's house. So everything is being augmented by the placement of the sun. And then she's running that energy right through her ascendant. And also her true node is conjunct the ascendant as well. Where is Jupiter going to be on election night? I've already said it. It's going to be right in her ascendant, which is not good, but it's also going to be on a Trump's sun. And I'm going to talk about that. And there's a theory that fits into this, that what might happen. Okay. So the other thing is that her sun is part of what's called the Via Combusta, also known as the burning path. It's like, I think around 23, 24 Libra, and it goes to around 11 or 12 Scorpio. It's like those degrees are supposedly where, if you have planets in those degrees, it gets hot. And there's a lot of burning off of dross, which means that you go through a purification. People say, well, it's karma. I don't really believe that. It's a purification. Right? Like for instance, I have Venus in the Via Combusta in Libra. So one of the things that I've had to go through over the course of my life is kind of burning through that realm and burning off a lot of the dross in that realm. Right? So that's what happens when you have planets in those degrees, and it's to purify them. So her sun is in the burning path, the burning way. Now, there are transits that will be interesting for her, transits that will challenge her. The Saturn transit and she's got Saturn in her 10th house right now, which is like, it's a prime transit for Saturn. 10th house is usually, when you have Saturn up there, it's like you're on, right? I think Saturn in the latter degrees of Aries, conjuncting her moon and opposing her sun Mercury, is going to be a really super challenging time for Kamala Harris, no matter where she is or what she's doing. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at the Sabian symbol for 20. Let's go 25 Gemini. Let's look at that. No, it's not what I want. Yes. Okay. So you guys know the drill about the Sabian symbols. If you're new, they were created in the 30s by Mark Edmund Jones and Elsie Wheeler. Mark Edmund Jones being one of the first modern astrologers in the United States. He believed he was part of the Sabian Brotherhood that extends all the way back to Babylon, hence the name Sabian. And Elsie Wheeler was a channel, about 40 plus years old. Kind of what I say, lame. I mean, like she couldn't get around. Spent time in a wheelchair. She was literally like a trance medium. That's what they called them back then. And he I don't know if he even paid her. I don't know what he did, but for basically a weekend, they sat in his car in San Diego in Balboa Park, which is an interesting place to bring these symbols in. And that's what they did. 360 symbols, one for every degree of the zodiac. And it was all double blind stuff. Okay, that's the background of the Sabian symbols. So let's take a look at 25. And I like to use Sabian symbols when it comes to things like the ascendant and the true node. All right. So what do we have here? Let's do this. Gemini 25, a gardener trimming large palm trees, bringing under control nature's power of expansion. The intellect of man is like a tropical plant in that it tends to expand wildly in many directions, seeking direct contact with the sun's rays. Like a palm tree, it uses its dead leaves to protect itself against dry heat. The heat of the realm of mind when deprived of the complementary power of feelings. The culture is characterized by specific forms and prime symbols, education's main object, at least in cultural and classical periods, has been to contain the imagination of individuals with these traditional forms. An entirely different approach to education is being attempted in our transitional age. So he's talking about education. I'm going to go in a different direction. At this last stage of the 17 fivefold sequence, we have reached the level of fulfillment of the impulses which began at the first stage, Gemini 21, in a tumultuous upsurge of self-assertion against us and protest against the past. Now this upsurge has found its place in the evolution of mankind and society. And symbolically speaking, labor has become not only unionized, but a strong force in the body politic. Yet the energies released seek constant expansion and therefore have to be controlled. There is a need for repeated pruning. What he's talking about is how everything starts here at Gemini 21, which is a tumultuous labor demonstration. And then it has its conclusion here at 25 Gemini, which is a gardener trimming large palm trees. Okay. So how does this relate to Kamala Harris and her ascendant? Well, there's a video out there where she talks about reducing the population. She talks about it. She says the quiet part out loud. So if you were to take this symbol and then apply it to that, which she says during how, the challenges of the future, she talks about population reduction. That's what this symbol is about. Pruning. Pruning what? Pruning a palm tree or pruning the general public? Think about that. because she has actually said that in a video. Population reduction, saying the quiet part out loud. So remember, this is the pink part. Right? This is Gemini. This is Mercury. By the way, if you're ever around Chinese people, do not do this. This is the equivalent of a middle finger in China. Do not do this. But I think it's also, again, when you get into Gemini is also masculine, feminine, right? It's you synthesize it with Venus and Aphrodite, you get the Aphrodite. All right, let's go back to our chart. Okay. So I think that, and again, I did this, those two shows on Kamala Harris last week, and I did them as a juxtaposition of the Black Madonna, which she is not. Because one of the qualifications of the Black Madonna is that the Black Madonna must have a child. And Kamala Harris is childless. And again, I'm not making a value-based judgment on her not having a kid. I'm just talking about the qualifications of being a Black Madonna. And what we've seen, go back to Venus, go back to Regulus moving into Virgo and going from the masculine, the father god, right? The hero, Thor, Odin, Arthur, Muhammad Ali, right? That's all Leo stuff. It's all heroic Leo stuff. John Wayne, Audie Murphy, Leo stuff. And we move Regulus into Virgo, and it goes masculine, feminine. And we see literally the rise of people like, AOC and Ayanna Presley and Fanny, what's her name in Georgia, and Ketanji Sonia Brown, right? Who else? The woman who ran for governor in Georgia. Like all these versions, right? All these versions, even Joe Biden, believe it or not, even Joe Biden is kind of a version of that. Like, who was really the face of the White House? It wasn't really Joe. It was more Jill. Right? Again, that's like this idea of Regulus. And I'm like, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, right? I'm not making a value judgment on Regulus going into Virgo, because ultimately it will be more about the folk, right? The people, but this is a transition of the ages that we're in. And so at the beginning of the transition, we're going to get, like, if you were to go back and look at the early degrees of like Regulus going in Leo, which I haven't done, but I probably should, I bet you can see the rise of this idea of the patriarchy, or the rise of the conquering king, or the conquering lord, or the conquering warlord. In fact, you'd probably go back to Rome and even Greece. That's how long Regulus was in Leo. We're in a different phase now. We're in a different part of the universe. So I guess what I'm saying is that she doesn't qualify as this idea of the veneration of the Black Madonna. And the Black Madonna, I do believe, is an esoteric veneration. We talked about this with Mary, the Queen of the Air, right? Which is the triangle that starts here at the bottom with the base and moves up. And the Black Madonna is the triangle that has its point in the bottom. It is pointing downwards towards the earth. Mary is pointing upwards towards the air. She's the queen of heaven. The Black Madonna is the queen of earth. Together, you get the Magan star. And I believe it is a very important esoteric symbol, right? It is an alchemical symbol, but I'm not sure the alchemical symbol was meant to become a personification. You understand what I'm saying? And even if it was meant to be a persona, Stacey Abrams, she did become the president of Starfleet. Stacey Abrams is an Aquarian, isn't she? Anyway, Kamala Harris is not that. She is not that. And I may catch hell from other quarters for saying this, but I'll tell you, her chart is based on pleasure. Pleasure. Sun in the 5th house in Libra is pleasure. And her historical record is one that is based on pleasuring others. Kamala Harris is a symbol of the Whore of Babylon. That's what she's a symbol of. I'm not saying she is. I'm not saying what Judge Brown said. I'm telling you, she's a symbol of the Whore of Babylon. That's who Kamala Harris is a symbol of, because she is not the Black Madonna. She is childless. She's not even Black. Go talk to the Black community. She's West Indian and East Indian. And the West Indian part might qualify her to some extent. But when she became senator of California, she didn't say, well, she had to be first at something. So she claimed the East Indian side, the first East Indian senator. I'm just telling you, Kamala Harris does not play well. Even Black Lives Matter objected when she was given the so-called nomination. I'm just telling you what I see, what I read, what I hear, and it's fairly unanimous. When I say, well, she's not even really Black. She's got some Caribbean. I think her great-great-grandfather in Jamaica, big slave owner, big plantation owner. And Kamala Harris, look at Jupiter. Look at that Jupiter in the 12th house. You know, the 12th house represents prisons. Prisons. And Kamala Harris had a lot of men in prison. She made the prison system a lot of money. A lot of money. She would fight when guys would come up for parole, and she would say, "Oh, we can't do that. Well, why can't you give them?" Because it will upset the balance of employment. I mean, she was really saying shit like this, right? That's Jupiter in the 12th house. That's what the 12th house is. It's prisons, hospitals, whorehouses, insane asylums, monasteries, nunneries. She's not going to be part of the last two. And then conjunct Algol in her 12th house. That's also big time funding and financing. Big time funding and financing. She doesn't quite have a mystic rectangle. It is close, but not quite. Moon in Aries. Like, that's a hot moon. You know, that moon in the 11th house, that's going to be a very potent moon in terms of things like social media, connecting with women, in terms of the vote. Don't underestimate her moon in Aries. And she's got that Mars in Mars in Leo in the 3rd house, trining that moon. What does that do? It brings energy, right? It brings energy and passion. So she's able to run her sun through the 1st house. Think of this as circuitry. Again, I'm not, you know, I'm not bailing water for Kamala Harris. I'm not propping her up. I'm just looking at the astrology. Anytime you can run the sun through the ascendant, that's what Trump does. Trump has his sun Uranus in the latter degrees of Gemini. What is it, around 24? and his ascendant is at 28 Leo. So Trump has the same thing, right? So Trump can run his energy through the ascendant as well. And Trump has, he has an odd charisma, but he's also running it through Mars, which is different than Harris, right? With Harris, what you're getting is the sun from the fifth. Think of that as like a prism, or like a lens. We'll use a lens as a metaphor. So she's running the sun through the first house, through that lens. And what that lens does is it heats it up and it turns it into like a more direct beam, right? Because there's nothing there. It's just the ascendant. With Trump, he's dealing with this kind of uncontrollable Uranus sun conjunction in his chart, right? It's like you never know what's going to happen. You never know where it's going to go. And then he's got that sextile. So he's running it through the first house, but it's got to go through Mars. So Trump is way more complex with that process. With Harris, it is not as complex, right? So there are people who will be into it. It's also really interesting if you go back and look at that picture with what's his name, Montel Williams. He's got one woman on one arm and one woman on the other. Now that one other woman might have been his daughter. I don't know, right? But she looked, fairly mature, right? Again, that's very Gemini. With Montel Williams with these two women on his arms. One of them is Kamala Harris. And she's got that Mars trine. Now, her Mars is going to be in Trump's 12th house. He better watch out. He better watch out with her Mars there. I did a show back in 2019 when Juicy Smollett was pulling all that shit. I did 2 shows, and Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and I think Michelle Obama, they were all up inside that fucking chart, right? If you go back, you can find it on my YouTube channel. And the astrological fingerprints were all over Juicy Smollett, and all 3 of those people are in there. And Kamala Harris is one of them. And Kamala Harris and Cory Booker were sponsoring this anti-lynching bill, which there is something deeper to the anti-lynching bill. It wasn't just like this kind of commemoration of lynching, right? I think they were kind of paving the way for reparations. There's something deeper going on with this anti-lynching bill. And then they needed to have an event, right? They needed an event which would push their bill over the top. And that's who they got. They got Juicy Smollett and the 2 Nigerian brothers. Right? That's what was going on. A lot of people don't remember that, but that's what was happening. By the way, that's also very Algol-y, isn't it? In the 12th house. That's very Algol-y. Trump better be careful, though. The 12th house is hidden enemies, and her Mars is in his 12th house, and it's within 7 degrees of his ascendant. And we know that politicians are capable of, at times, unspeakable acts in the name of the greater good. And that Mars and Leo in the 3rd house, that's goofy. It's kind of goofy. It's kind of all over the place. Also, that it's interesting that it's opposing Saturn. And she has all these older men that are part of her life. Like her father is considerably older than she is. Willie Brown was considerably older than she is. Joe Biden, considerably older than she is. Saturn plays a pretty significant role, right? It is the father and it is older men. And there's something about Mars down here that connects the circuit with that. She's got that Mars-Neptune square that's usually connected with addiction. What's she addicted to? She's addicted to fame. She's addicted. That must have been hell for her for the last 4 years to basically run around, do nothing, and cackle. That must have been hell. No, I'm serious. I'm not shedding a tear for her, right? But it's like that was not feeding her fame addiction. That Mars square with Jupiter, that is indicative of an individual who will do many things to get what they want. Seriously. Jupiter squares to any planet are they're like the gambler square. That's what they are. It's like, let's go. More, right? And Mars is about power, especially Mars and Leo. And then Jupiter square Saturn. You know, she worked for this guy in San Francisco. His name was Terrence Hallinan. And he was the district attorney for San Francisco. She got in, I think she became an assistant DA or something like that. And she knew where all the bodies were buried. She knew where all the bodies were buried. And when she ran against him, there's an article that I think it was either in the Chronicle or the SF Weekly or the Guardian, one of the two. And basically at this press conference, and I think Hallinan was there, she basically said, oh yeah, not only am I running, but I'm more than happy to talk about his record. And when I mean his record, I mean what happened between those four walls. She says this. I'm paraphrasing this a little bit, but it shocked people. There was like, because there was like, well, who is she? You know, she was kind of this, you know, she got these gigs from Willie Brown. She was a socialite. You know, she'd cross the bay, go from Oakland to San Francisco, and she'd hang out with, you know, all the fucking socialites in San Francisco. And she'd be on the socialite page. So people weren't really sure what they were going to get with her. And she did the same thing to Terrence Hallinan that she did with Joe Biden during the debate. Like, she came right out at the beginning of the first debate and she called Joe Biden a racist to his face. And what, last week? Doug and I, we love Joe. We love Joe. We love Jill. We just love them. Yeah, 4 years ago, you were ready to throw the old fucker under the bus. Call him a racist. She did the same thing with Terrence Hallinan. So, Kamala Harris. If I were Trump, and I'm going to be totally upfront here, if I were Trump, I would not debate her. I would not debate her. I would, because I don't think he matches up well with Harris in a debate setting. Now, he could go to her record and pull out a record because there's plenty there. There's plenty there. But I don't, there's so much vitriol from women to Trump. Certain women, not all women, so much vitriol. And especially women that are on the left who are convinced that he's connected to the abortion issue and this, Project 2025 and all this other shit, right? So there's nothing Trump can say to these women that will ever bring them across the aisle, right? There's nothing. And in fact, their vitriol will be at 11 if they go through these debates, right? And I'm not sure JD Vance would do better, although I would probably have. It's just weird. You know what it reminds me of in a lot of ways? It reminds me of when Obama ran against John McCain. And that election was not Obama versus McCain. It was Obama versus Sarah Palin. And it feels like this election is more like JD Vance versus Kamala Harris. They're a little closer in age, although I think Harris is 61? 60. She's 60. JD Vance is 42? So there's 18 years. She's right in the middle. She's like the midpoint between JD Vance and Trump. That's kind of interesting. But it feels like JD Vance is closer to her because of that kind of Gemini energy that she has, which is, kind of youthful and kind of goofy and kid-like, right? And it also feels like Vance has a better track record with things like unions and the working class. And Harris has a terrible record, right? Like if you look at the California penal system, what she did with prisoners, JD Vance could have a field day with that. Now, on Trump's side, Trump has cultivated the black male vote faster than just about anybody else I've ever seen. And he did that through like the harassment with the felony stuff and Letitia James and all that stuff, right? And then whatever happened to Butler, that was the thing that sealed the deal for him. And like these black males who were like, oh, well, shit. I know what it's like to be harassed over and over again and again. You get arrested. I know what it's like. And I know what it's like to be innocent. It's like the system is against you. Oh, I know what it's like to survive a drive-by. Right. So in that moment, like Trump solidified a very interesting base. Now, do they vote? I don't know. I don't know if they vote. I don't know what the numbers are, but clearly there is an interesting kind of, it's not a rift, but there's this side, this sort of, I don't know, geocosmic, like liquefaction that's happening in the so-called black community around Trump and Harris. Like it's very fluid. It's a very fluid situation. And if you have the majority of, let's say, black men who are really pro-Trump, and those men have some kind of power and influence over how they might persuade like their wife or their girlfriend or their partner, whatever. And I've seen this in interviews where they had these black couples who were it looked like they were middle class. And they're being interviewed. And this one guy said, "Who did you vote for in 2012? I voted for Barack Obama. I voted for him twice. And I now regret that vote." That's what this guy said. "Who did you vote for in 2016? I voted for Donald Trump. Who did you vote for in 2020? I voted for Donald Trump. And I will be voting for Donald Trump again." And you talked to I think it was his wife. And she was Obama, Hillary, Biden. Who are you going to vote for in 2024? Trump. So there is this crossover that's starting to take place in that community. How much of it, I don't know, but it's like this liquefaction that's happening. And I think it's really interesting. And one of the things that I talked about with the timeline stuff is that for years, right? Racist this, racist that, racist this, racist that, racist this, racist that. And then days after Trump got shot, and again, whatever you think of that, whatever you think of the event, days after when Trump got shot, like a lot of that went away. It was like, holy shit. It went away. It was like, okay, well, we're not talking about, Orange Man bad. Like you got these guys that are, pledging their life to protect Trump during the next rally. It's interesting because he's going back to Butler, Pennsylvania. I think it's a smart move from now people will say, "Oh, look at his ear. His ear looks okay. It doesn't look all shredded." Look, whatever. Right? Whatever. Maybe he's got all these evangelicals praying over him. The end of the day, right? Something happened with that event and it changed, fundamentally changed something. Up until then, I think they were planning on running with Joe Biden. Nope. That changed. Right? It's like, oh, we got to get this fucker out of here now. We got to get him out of here. He's hanging on. Trump has just about obliterated us. We got to make a change. And so that even changed. You said, well, they're planning on, look, they theoretically, you go back and look at this. And I said this before. Last year in February of 2023, Kamala Harris was having her Saturn return. And I really thought that by that time, Biden would have been out. And that she would have, ascended literally to her 10th house. And Saturn moves in there and boom, right? You get 2 years, basically, 2023, and then almost 2 years of Harris. And then if she pulls it off and, I don't know, gets momentum, whatever, you could literally have 8 years of Harris. So a decade of Harris, which sounds really depressing. But that didn't happen. And I thought there's a very good possibility it's going to happen. Eventually it did happen, but it happened with Saturn in her 10th house. And for all intents and purposes, Biden is only president in name at this point. Right. Let's talk about Trump's chart for a minute. Let me do this. I just want to go back to the French Revolution. Let me throw up Trump's chart. Okay. Right here. All right. So this Jupiter is going to be on his sun on election night, and it's retrograde. Now, you can see where Kamala Harris's Mars is. It is right there. 21 degrees, hidden enemies, 12th house. And it is squaring Trump's midheaven. Yeah, that's that, that's kind of it's kind of cloak and daggerish. Kind of like, hey, I have to be careful with what I say. I have to be very careful. I think you can infer from what I'm saying about what I'm trying to say. Just infer with me, right? Here, right there, hidden enemies, squaring that midheaven. Bada bing. All right, let's get back to election night. So there's a theory floating around that the other side will pretend to be the Republicans, and they will stuff the ballot boxes and cheat, and they will get caught. And Trump will be accused of trying to rig the election. Now, this is a theory that's been floated around, and with Jupiter on his sun retrograde on election night, it's a theory that could hold some water. Because everybody thinks that the Democrats will run the election results, right? That's what they think. Something happened in 2020 when things didn't go according to plan, and certain people thought a certain thing happened in a certain way, and still think to this day that that thing happened in the way that they thought it did. If you know what I'm saying. So most people would think, well, it'll happen the same way again that it did last time. No, it will not. Not in Gemini. So I think there is some credence to the theory that the rigging will happen, but it will be a fake rigging. Now, will they be able to expose it? I don't know. But that's how you could throw everything into massive chaos. So when I've been looking at this Jupiter on his sun, it's like, oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. Great for Trump. No, it's retrograde. Also on Harris's chart, Jupiter is almost bang on her ascendant, right? It's a little bit off, but it's close. And it retrogrades into her 12th house. So they're both going through a retrograde moment. Which one will impact the most? Maybe it'll impact us. I mean, my feeling about November 5th is that it will probably wind up being a contested election, which isn't going to be good. That's my feeling. And it's because of the retrograde. And we have some kind of continuity of government that goes on, which again isn't good either. And it's interesting that Trump is talking about this being like the last election. And a lot of people are interpreting this as Trump winning and then becoming like Caesar or dictator. I'm not really sure that that's what he means. I think what he means is that no matter who wins, it's going to be the last election that we know and experience in the way that we have for whatever reason, right? For whatever reason. And if Harris becomes president, Look, I'm not a huge fan of Trump's cozy relationship with our dearest ally in the whole fucking universe, which happens to be in the Middle East. That said, if it came down to Trump or Harris, I don't know. I'm thinking at least with Trump, we might be able to eat steak. Whereas with Harris, meat's going out the window. Like Harris will be our worst nightmare when it comes to the Green New Deal. Our worst nightmare. I mean, you think gas prices are high now? Wait till if she gets in, the wrecking ball will be like remember those clackers? Those clackers in back in the 70s? That'll be the wrecking ball. That's how fast it'll go. Trump, he's got that Sun-Uranus conjunction, and he is disruptive. So who knows? Maybe he's working with, his group, and then there's this other group, World Economic Forum, breakaway civilization, whatever, right? Trump finds a way to fuck things up, right? And he could fuck up their plans. And even the people that are entrusting him, hey, you're going to be the point person for this new model. It's going to go like this. Well, he can even fuck that up, right? That's a Sun-Uranus conjunction. Harris doesn't have that. Harris is way more. People think that Trump is calculating. I think Harris is far more calculating than Trump. Far more calculating. And that's that Sun Mercury conjunction, Mercury and Scorpio, trining that Saturn, unobstructed. Trump's got to work through some other stuff with his Mercury, right? He's got to work through the Neptune square. He's got to work through the Chiron square. He's got to work through the Jupiter square. She doesn't have that issue. I think it's good that Saturn's retrograde for Trump. But when it gets into his 8th house, we have to have a different discussion. Altogether. All right. So I gave you my theory. My theory on election night, Jupiter's here. There's something very retrograde about the election. There's something that can't be reconciled. It looks like somebody is messing with the results. And again, this is something that crossed my screen. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Oh, Jupiter retrograde on his sun. It feels like it. Because everybody's thinking they're going to go run in this direction. They're going to run it the way they did last time. No, it's Gemini. They'll cut in the other direction. They'll catch them in their own trap. Just point it out. Maybe by pointing out it doesn't happen. We break the spell. Anyway, if it came down to either one, I mean, I'd much rather have Thomas Massey, but at this point, at least Trump will have some unintended resistance. Let's put it that way. Now, I think Kennedy becomes a very interesting player at this point. He supposedly has 8% of the vote. That's major. If there is a tight vote, again, all depends on who counts the votes. We all know that. But if it's tight, Kennedy's in the place now to make deals. He's in a place to make deals. Do you think he wants to get behind Kamala Harris? I don't think so. Does Hollywood want him to? Does Cheryl want him to? Oh, yeah. Cheryl would love for him to jump on the Kamala train. That sounds a little dirty, doesn't it? Anyway, That 8% is worth something. It's going to get interesting. What do you think, Peach? What is your tongue doing out? Get your tongue out. Now it's in. That was weird. I've never seen you stick. You were like in a cat trance. All right. There you go. There you go. I'll be back on Monday and we'll talk about, I'm sorry, Tuesday. We'll talk about the chart of the day. We'll plot out the week on Tuesday. We're 3 hours into the show. All right. So here we go. Just a quick reminder. If you haven't hit subscribe, please do. If you haven't hit like and you like the show, please do. Ring the bell so when I go live, you're notified. And we're having an event here in the fall. The first weekend in October, I talked with Mario from Symbolic Studies on Saturday. He's psyched and ready to be here. He's a great artist. He's a great decoder, like really just top notch. And he'll be doing a presentation. He'll be part of our group. He's also available to do tarot readings as well. So if you want to get a tarot reading at the event, sign up. Sign up. Come see Mario and get a tarot reading from him. I'll be there. I'll be doing a presentation. Darlene is going to be there. We're going to have DJ Pebbles. Maybe we'll get a few other surprises to come along. Good hill country food over at the Inn of the Hills. We got Tex-Mex. We got barbecue. We got the best German food. I'm telling you right now, Marvin makes the absolute best German food in the freaking hill country. I'm just being straight up. It's going to be excellent. Excellent time. If you need to share, so go to the Inn of the Hills, reserve a room, right? That's under the harvest moon. You can reserve a room. You don't have to pay anything. If you cancel, you cancel, right? You don't have to pay for the room. If you're looking for a room share, connect with Tom. You can connect with him in chat. You can connect with him on Locals. You can connect with him over on Telegram. He also is on Facebook. So Tom has volunteered to help people out if you're looking for a room share situation. This is the 6th year we've been doing this. My God. It blows my mind. The 6th year. And every year has been fantastic. And everybody falls in love with each other, figuratively. Right. And people make friendships, and hey, we've had some relationships come out of this as well. You never know. Right. So please, if you're interested, the link is in the description for the show. I brought the price down this year so more people can attend. And I hope y'all can make it. It's always a great event, and this year plans to be no exception to the rule. And it's a Libra season, and the planets are in my 11th house, so it's like a big party. And for people who stay an extra day or two, right? I always have a barbecue at my place after the event. We started the 2nd year over in Fredericksburg on South Creek. And it's just a tradition. We do things like chicken wings and sausages and salads, and it's really good. Because I live so close to the Inn of the Hills, I don't know. Maybe I'll throw a brisket in, because I can just drive over now. Throw that brisket in, let it cook overnight. Get some brisket. All right, that's it. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Enjoy your Monday. And treat each other well. I just treat each other well. You have everything you need inside of you. Everything. And I love you all, and God bless. All right. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Take care. Mods, thank you for all you do. Bye for now.